Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, a lot to get to on a quick pod here today, live from Orchard Park. Bills had Tuesday practice, a lot of injuries to be updated. Sean McDermott spoke with the media on Monday, reporting on a lot of those injuries, and then we saw a lot of updates on the practice field. So why don't we start off by you telling the people where McDermott left us on Monday, and then I'll kind of go off of that on what I saw Tuesday on the practice field.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to leave any comments. We'll try to get to those throughout the show. But again, appreciate everyone tuning in today here on Right Here, Right Now. I don't know what is longer, Alex, our last couple of days here at the Batavia Daily or Livingston County, or the injury list for this Buffalo Bills team. Sean McDermott
high school football season starting can make for some long days, AJ.
Yeah, so Sean McDermott addressed the media yesterday and gave an update. So wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling, quarterback Mitch Trubisky, defensive tackle Austin Johnson, edge rusher Javon Solomon, and tight end Quentin Morris all left Saturday's preseason contest and did not return. So there's 5 new injuries. Scantling dealing with a neck, Trubisky knee, Johnson calf, Solomon calf, and Quentin Morris a shoulder. And then along with those new injuries sustained during the game on Saturday, Alex, a whole slew of injuries that the Bills have really dealt with all of, the training camp and the offseason. Damar Hamlin dealing with a nagging injury, Cole Bishop with a shoulder, Mike Edwards with a hamstring, Curtis Samuel with a general soreness injury, or a turf toe now. That was deemed a turf toe for Curtis Samuel. Nicholas Moreau, a core groin, linebacker Bill Inspector with a calf, Matt Milano, a biceps injury, Lawrence Keys, a wide receiver who was released for the new quarterback here at One Bills Drive, and then edge Casey Tuahill, groin injury, and then finally Travis Clayton with a shoulder. So a lot of names to get to. Hopefully, if you're listening on audio, you understood me. I said it slow enough where you can get to those. But now Alex will provide you with the up-to-date, literally, of today's Tuesday practice and where the Bills kind of stand with the injury front.
Yeah, and according to Coach McDermott on Monday, Trubisky, Valdez-Scantling, and Morris were deemed out multiple weeks, while Samuel, Hamlin, and Spector were each ruled week to week, while he expected Edwards, Bishop, and Moreau to start participating in walkthroughs and individual drills after extended absences for both of them. He also said that defensive tackle Austin Johnson and edge rusher Javon Solomon would be limited throughout the week, and Casey Tuahill was expected to return later this week. Now, we saw Casey Tuahill on the field today, so later this week, that meant today, Tuesday, he was what I thought was limited. I didn't get a great look at him throughout practice. I believe he was limited today. Johnson and Solomon, by my count, were each full participants, so they were expected to be limited throughout the week. They both participated during team drills, so certainly positive signs for all 3 of those players. But let's get to some more high-profile names, beginning with the top returner at today's practice, Cole Bishop, out there for the first time since July 30th, wearing the red non-contact jersey throughout his first practice appearance in quite a few weeks here. And the second-round pick participated in positional work, did not participate in tackling drills, obviously, with that red non-contact jersey on. He was sidelined throughout team drills. This is a really good sign for Bishop. I spoke with Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills last night. He said that the reported or rumored injury that Bishop is going through usually takes about 4 weeks, or somewhere around there, and Bishop about midway through his recovery, according to Dr. Kyle Trimble. So starting to see signs of Bishop perhaps getting closer to a return to game action with that return to practice in that red non-contact jersey. Elsewhere at the safety position, it's like a mash unit out there at safety for the Bills. Damar Hamlin goes down in that Thursday joint practice with that hamstring injury, but we did see him out there in uniform today. He did not participate during positional work nor team drills. He was off to the side participating with athletic trainers, took part in agility drills and some light jogging. So a good sign for Damar Hamlin dealing with that hamstring injury that the team usually takes slowly, particularly during the preseason. You don't want a soft tissue injury like that to linger. So perhaps taking things slow with Hamlin, and him going out there in full uniform just tells you how eager he is to return to the team. Mike Edwards, also expected to return in limited fashion this week, did not do so on Tuesday. He was simply riding the bike, throwing the medicine ball off to the side with athletic trainers, really activities that he's been doing for the past week or so. Edwards dealing with a hamstring injury as well. So Edwards and Hamlin still off to the side. Bishop starting to ramp things up a little bit more considerably, but the safety position not looking as dire as it did at one point, AJ.
Yeah, at least you're seeing, like, I think it probably was a relief for a lot of Bills fans, right? Just to see some video of Cole Bishop out there. It's been since late July, really, that we got to see Bishop play. So it's been a long, long time for him to be out there. He's probably missed, he has missed a lot of reps throughout the course of his time missed. But I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if, he ends up returning from injury quicker than Edwards and Hamlin, comes onto the field and wins a starting job? Like, I think that would just be a crazy thing, because now I don't think you can, and I know we talked about it, we can't guarantee really Damar Hamlin starting now because of that hamstring injury. How long is that going to be? I know it's good to see him light jog today, but those soft tissue injuries, they got so many injuries at that safety room. How quickly do you really want to ramp him up if you feel confident that Bishop and Edwards are, they've been rehabbing a little bit longer, and you feel like maybe those guys will be ready quicker? So I really, we're back to really not knowing, Alex, what they're going to do opposite Taylor Rapp at the safety position, which is quite fascinating, because, you go back to last year with Terrell Bernard and the whole middle linebacker ordeal and who was going to start, and Bernard was injured all camp, and then he starts. So maybe that's what they do at the safety position, and they roll a guy out there like a Mike Edwards or Cole Bishop, who missed a lot of time, missed a lot of reps, but they, feel like they're capable of starting week one and being the starter opposite Rapp. So a lot to take away, but good signs in terms of they're back on the field, most of the safeties, and they're getting there and progressing.
Yeah, another key position dealing with a number of injuries, the wide receiver position, and a few updates from the practice field today. Curtis Samuel indeed dealing with that turf toe injury, as our buddy Roy Collins points out. Not sure of the severity of that injury. Had a good chat, like I said, with Dr. Kyle Trimble last night. If you want to, you can go back and watch last night's podcast to get more of an extensive update in terms of the nature of Curtis Samuel's injury, his injury history, and kind of the expected return for him this preseason. But Samuel was not out there at practice today. He was on the exercise bike along with Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Quentin Morris, all three out of uniform. Valdez-Scantling really not testing it on the bike, just kind of sitting there and going through the motions, while Samuel and the others on the bike were really putting themselves through a bit more rigorous aerobic exercise. Also joining them for a moment was Nicholas Moreau after he exited from positional work. But Morris and MVS both expected to be out multiple weeks per McDermott. Curtis Samuel with that turf toe, maybe a shorter timetable for him to return than a Marquez Valdez-Scantling with that neck injury. But Curtis Samuel initially dealing with general soreness. It's turned into a turf toe injury. Perhaps the Bills just playing it safe at this point. That's not something you can really get fully healthy throughout the course of the season. So trying to get it as healthy as possible going into week one, perhaps.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel, I feel like right now, from everything I've read, there's a lot of doctors, knowledgeable doctors on Twitter, Dr. Kyle Trimble, one of them being, that really talked about maybe a 2 to 4 week period for Samuel. I think it's probably 50-50 right now from everything I've consumed, on top of, go tune into last night's Right Here, Right Now episode with Alex and the Banged Up Bills over on Twitter. But yeah, I really do like, what they're doing with Samuel. I think they should, take their time with him, no rush, but I still do think it's probably going to be up in the air if he's going to be ready for week one. And then you look at MVS, the neck sprain, that's obviously something that's a little bit more serious. There was some concern during the preseason game when he was down, kind of teammates rallied around him, and, he ended up getting up. He did not have to get escorted off by a stretcher, or what are those called? It's not a stretcher. It's
backboard.
Backboard, yeah. So The backboard
spine board, they also call it, I believe, spine board. Okay. How much can you hear the wind coming over? It's a little bit gusty out here.
Very
Good?
minimal. Very
Okay.
minimal. So, yeah, just all in all, say wide receiver room, and then Quentin Morris. I mean, I guess it gives opportunity to Zach Davidson, but I think the only way Davidson makes this roster is if they do keep 4. I think Morris has shown enough, depending on, I guess, the injury and how long he's out. But, again, week-to-week designation for him, so we'll see if he can return for week 1.
Bit gusty out here, AJ, and that may have contributed to what was a rough day for Tyler Bass. We'll get to that later in the show. But to complete our injury updates, we'll do so after a quick thanks of our sponsor, Forefathers Organics. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. As I said before, AJ, positive news to report on Austin Johnson and Javon Solomon, 2 depth players for this team, both dealing with that soft tissue injury of the calf, but both out there seemingly fully participating during Tuesday's practice.
Yeah, good to see those 2 guys. They're very, I think, solidified in rotational roles along this line. I think Javon Solomon has really shown enough. I think he's kind of surprised some people, in the past, in terms of a pass rusher, but I also think he shocked some people in terms of the run defense. I think he showed some flashes of setting the edge and being smart and knowing where to be. He may not be the most physical guy and he struggles because of the size, but if you can set that edge and allow a Joe Andreessen, right, or one of those linebackers to shoot the gap, that definitely bodes well for a guy that's really fighting for a spot to show he can be a complete rotational, edge player on this team. And then with Austin Johnson, the assumed backup to Declan Jones, bigger body, can take on double teams, eat blocks. It's good to see him back out there. And, both those guys are going to be important rotational pieces for this defense.
Absolutely. And Nicholas Moreau, with the injury to Matt Milano and Moreau starting to make his way back, it seemed at one point that Moreau had no chance to make this roster due to that injury. We just didn't see him out there. And now with the emergence of Joe Andreessen, maybe even less of a chance to make the roster, but he is back out there on the practice field, albeit in limited fashion. If he's going to make any push to make this 53-man roster, it's going to have to start soon.
Yeah, he needs to show out. I mean, this weekend is his opportunity. Sean McDermott said also, on top of the injuries on Monday, the starters will not go on Saturday against the Carolina Panthers at Highmark Stadium at 1:00. So there is some opportunity maybe for Moreau to show out during that preseason game, put some reps on, on the film during the practice and see what he can do, because he has a lot of experience. I think the Bills could utilize a depth piece. I don't know really what they have with Deion Jones at this point. So what do you get out of him? I feel like they still need a dependable guy back there. Balen Spector, you can't trust at this point in his career. He just can't stay healthy. So can Moreau really get back together, get that core and groin figured out, and maybe make a late push for that final 53-man spot on this roster as a linebacker?
Yeah, and Roy Collins saying he only plays doctor on YouTube. A lot of people playing doctor on social media these days, especially ridiculing the Bills athletic training staff, as myself and Dr. Kyle Trimble got to last night, unrightfully so, getting after the Bills training staff. Not sure what they can do about all these injuries. But another player that previously discussed throughout this pod, Casey Toohill, much like Moreau, we haven't seen much from him. Edge rusher position is not stocked, but I think it's going to be an uphill climb for him to make this roster. Just not enough time on task in this defense. He was in uniform today, participated, I believe, a little bit more than Moreau, but once again, it's going to be a tall mountain to climb.
Yeah, Casey Toohill. I mean, and it's funny because I talked about it, and like we go back to Joe Andreessen, and I'm trying to bring him back up, but no one. And like,
hey, listen, I think the people love you bringing up Buffalo Joe. Any chance you get.
Okay, so like, it was shocking enough, right, that Joe Andreessen, got the start at middle linebacker, but like, there's not been any conversation besides like him being a local kid, right? And like, there's been some stories about that, but no one, like, I'm not joking. I've listened to podcasts. We've done our podcast. So I've read your work. I've, everyone's takeaway. There's really no Joe Andreessen talk, and then he gets a start, right? So I think for Casey Toohill, it's going to kind of have to be the same thing if he has any chance. No one's talked about him. Everyone's counted him out. he's going to have to, just kind of erupt in the last game to maybe like, hey, this guy's a veteran. He's coming off a 5-6 sack season in Washington, kind of trying to, revitalize his career. Maybe, Solomon, you feel like maybe you can squeak in an extra D end in that room because Solomon's a bit younger. You probably have to part ways with Kingsley Jonathan. So there are maybe some extreme avenues where Casey Tuhill will make it, but we haven't really talked about him. He hasn't really done much. And like I said, compared to a Joe Andreessen, he's going to have to, come out and shock the world. And we're going to have to start the name of our podcast on Saturday after the game with the Casey Tuhill game, if that's the case.
Yeah, I think it's still an uphill climb to see Tuhill or Moreau out there on Saturday. For them not to be full participants and Moreau coming off pretty quickly during positional work, I think it's going to be a long road for him to make it back in time for Saturday. But hey, we'll see. That's going to be each player's last chance to put some good product on tape. So moving on, quarterback Mitch Trubisky on the practice field today. He is dealing with that knee injury. Knee was pretty stiff today. He was just wearing a sleeve on that left leg, but you saw him walking around the practice field, and he was not flexing the knee at all, really limping around kind of peg leg style. So it's going to be a little while for Mitch Trubisky. The Bills signed Anthony Brown early on Tuesday. The new third-string quarterback made his first appearance at Bills practice. He was wearing number 5, which is Kaiir Elam's number, but not to be worried. Kaiir Elam's still on the team during training camp due to increased roster numbers. You can have a number 5 on both sides of the ball. So that's why Brown is wearing number 5. What are your thoughts on Brown and your thoughts on the injury to Trubisky? We talked about it after the game on Saturday. Trubisky's been dreadful through 2 preseason games. Anthony Brown, an inexperienced player that couldn't really latch on a team early in this season. I don't think he was on a roster last year. So what are your thoughts here at the quarterback position?
Yeah, so he was a Oregon Ducks phenomenon. He was really good in Oregon. He transferred from Boston College, so he played at a couple good schools back in the day in college. Went undrafted, appeared in 2 games with Baltimore in 2022, went 0-1, and maybe you want to shut your ears for 44.9% completion percentage, 300 yards, 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. So definitely did not really look the part, no disrespect. I think with Brown, it's really just a camp body at this point. Put him out there, see what he can do. If they were going to try and replace Trubisky and they don't feel confident with him, I feel like they would have gotten a bigger name, like a Ryan Tannehill, like that's everyone talked about. So I think with Brown, it's just a camp body. I'm interested to see what he can do. Joe Brady said he's not going to put too much on his plate today during the pre-presser and kind of just see how he, whatever plays he wants to do kind of is what he's going to do. And yeah, to John Roberts' point, he is fast. So he's got some speed. Maybe he can show the wheels. 4.35 40. Thank you for that, John Roberts. So that, you're always here being a loyal listener. So we greatly appreciate it.
And look at Luis all the way from Brazil.
Luis from Brazil. I wonder what time it is down there, but whatever it is, thank you for tuning in. So that's pretty cool.
A few more injury, or maybe one more injury update, and not a player who's on that injury report anymore, but spent quite a bit of time sidelined. Edifon Ulofoshio, the rookie linebacker, and once again, with the thinning out at that position, every player becomes increasingly more important. And Ulofoshio has really ramped up his activity in recent practices. He was out there getting some opportunity at middle linebacker today. So good to see Ulofoshio rounding back into form. It looked at one point he may be a candidate for short-term IR, but seems like signs are pointing toward him cracking this 53-man roster come the end of the preseason.
Yeah, I'm liking what I've seen from Edifon Ulofoshio. I think with what he showed at the blue and red before he went down, I thought he showed some grit and toughness near the goal line there to kind of mount up, fill the gap, and bring down the backer before he left the field with an injury during that scrimmage. So I like what I've seen from Ulofoshio. He's a fast player. The injury bug concerns me. He was pretty injury ridden during his college career, and so we'll see what comes with that. But all in all, I mean, this is going to be an easy segment to digest for me when I'm listening, because for the listeners, I know I try to timestamp everything. This is just 20 minutes of injuries, so that's what it's going to be. The first 20 minutes of our show we're spending on August, and thank God it's only August. We're not sitting here in November, December. But that's a long time. That's a long segment just talking about injuries, and that's what's happened to the Bills this offseason during training camp.
Yeah, we'll just get to a few performance updates from the practice field. Like you said, to lead off the podcast, it's been a very long day, 2 days really for us at the Daily News. So we're going to go about 25 minutes. First performance update, Jamarcus Ingram continues to stand out on the practice field. He really made a nice play on a ball near the sideline intended for Keon Coleman. Ingram read the pass, right away, jumped on it, jumped in front of Coleman, batted the ball out of bounds. A great pass breakup, and we've seen that from him throughout training camp, and his physicality has also been impressive in the run game. I think he's really putting it all together this preseason, and I think he's a lock to make this roster. I've thought that for quite some time, and also trending toward being a potential contributing member as we've seen the secondary deal with injuries the past number of years.
Yeah, the injuries were obviously something that can maybe give him a role. You know, he's a guy that's really, I think, performed well throughout all of training camp, right? I think he's done a good job, and I'm looking forward to see what's to come from him and, where he can really go moving forward.
And the final one, we've talked about it a million times, AJ, but again, Tyler Bass, inconsistent at Bills practice today. He's a perfect 5 for 5 during the preseason. Only one of those kicks has really been impressive, though. The others have really come from short range. Today, he missed several kicks, and I don't have my notepad, but let me reference my article. The misses came from 47 yards twice and 37 yards once. He made kicks from 42, 47, 37, and 43. Give or take a few yards on those. My measuring not exact. I was on the far side of the field, so I had a tough angle in terms of what exact yard line he was at. But like I said, a perfect 5 for 5 for the preseason, but he's been pretty erratic throughout the course of training camp, and Brandon Beane was right behind the operation today, keeping a close watch on it. I think perhaps the Bills starting to get a little bit nervous with Bass's performance throughout training camp.
Yeah, this is going to be a significant development come the regular season week 1 when it's 4th and 4 on the 40-yard line or 4th and 4 on the 35-yard line on the Cardinals 35-yard line. And what do you do there, right? Do you trust your offense, or do you trust Tyler Bass to, hey, first drive, say it's the first drive. I'm using an extreme example, but 4th and 4 first drive, do you send him out there to make a kick, or do you trust your offense to go get 7? That's going to be a development, and we'll see what happens and what they decide to do in those situations and how much they really trust Tyler Bass. I think we'll have a lot to take away from that week 1 performance. I think he's going to be kicking in the final preseason game, so maybe give him some more reps, maybe try and give him a bit of a longer kicks. I don't know if they can do that purposefully, but it would be nice to see him maybe try and drill some 40, 50 yarders to see what he can do and kind of give the Bills fans some sense of relief, because I feel like not only are they worried about now the absence of Milano and all these injuries, but your kicker. And with the Chiefs, they've always had, right, a Harrison Bucker, you think. And then you go back to the Ravens with Justin Tucker, the Gostkowski with the New England Patriots back in the day. Always.
And it seemed Bass was trending that way at one point in his career, and then it just kind of flatlined for him last season.
Yeah. So he needs to turn around, right? And when the regular season hits, that's when it really matters. The practice inconsistencies are not a good sign, quite frankly. And he needs to figure it out, because they need him this year, because again, they're going to score points, but I think they're going to maybe play a little different philosophically and, play ball possession, run the ball a little bit more, still be a pass heavy attack. But I think there's maybe a little bit of shifts with what Joe Brady's doing. You saw it down the stretch last year. Josh Allen wasn't that great towards the back half of last year. So I think they need Tyler Bass this year more than ever. And I think he needs to prove to himself more than ever that he can still be, a top echelon kicker in this league.
All right, before we get out of here, a word from our sponsor, Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, that's going to do it. Bills return to the practice field on Wednesday at 12:30. Bobby Babich meets with the media at noon. We will have another podcast for you tomorrow, and we will see you next time.
Peace out.